My name is Shannon, and I'm 27 years old now. But when I think back to that October evening when I was 16, my chest still tightens with the same suffocating dread I felt sitting on our threadbare couch. Dad's construction company had crumbled after losing 3 major contracts in 2 months. Mom clutched a stack of unpaid bills, while Dad's weathered hands trembled against his coffee mug. They called my brother Jake and me into our cramped living room. The words that followed would fracture my world forever. They could only afford to keep Jake because he showed academic promise and athletic talent. I would live with Uncle Frank in Montana because I'd be a better match for his rural family. The silence that followed Mom's announcement felt heavier than the October rain pelting our windows. Jake shifted uncomfortably beside me, avoiding my stunned gaze. I watched my parents study their shoes rather than meet my eyes, and something cold settled in my stomach. But why me? I whispered, my voice cracking like it hadn't done since middle school. Dad cleared his throat roughly. Frank's got space on the ranch, son. You'll learn good work ethic out there. Jake's got that scholarship opportunity coming up, and we can't afford both of you. Mom finished, her voice barely audible. The next week blurred together like a fever dream. I packed my belongings into 2 duffel bags, while Jake awkwardly inherited my room and most of my possessions. My parents acted like this was a temporary summer camp instead of permanent exile. They kept using phrases like fresh start and character building. But I could see the relief in their faces as my departure date approached. Dad drove me to the Greyhound station on a gray November morning. The radio played classic rock songs that felt like funeral hymns. He bought me a ticket to Missoula and pressed $40 into my palm. "This isn't forever, Shannon," he said, but his eyes didn't meet mine. "Just until we get back on our feet." The bus ride stretched across 3 states and 36 hours. I watched cornfields give way to mountains while trying to convince myself this was all a nightmare. Passengers climbed on and off at various stops, but I remained glued to my window seat, replaying every moment of my 16 years searching for clues about what made me disposable. Uncle Frank waited at the Missoula station with the same grim expression I remembered from family reunions. He was Dad's older brother, weathered by decades of ranch work, with calloused hands and sun-damaged skin. His greeting consisted of a firm handshake and a grunt. "You ready for real work, boy?" The drive to his ranch took another hour through winding mountain roads. Frank's house was a modest 2-story structure, surrounded by endless pastures and timber fences. Aunt Linda emerged from the kitchen, wiping flour-covered hands on her apron. Her smile seemed genuine, but strained. "Shannon, honey, we've got the spare room ready for you." Their children, Tyler and Emma, were 14 and 12 respectively. Tyler inherited Frank's stocky build and sullen demeanor, while Emma possessed her mother's auburn hair and cautious warmth. Neither seemed particularly excited about my arrival. My room was small but clean, with a single-bed wooden desk and narrow closet. I unpacked my meager belongings while listening to the family's dinner conversation drift upstairs. They discussed Tyler's wrestling season and Emma's piano recital, normal family rhythms that felt foreign after weeks of tense silence at home. That first week, I enrolled at Missoula High School as a junior. The guidance counselor, Mrs. Henderson, reviewed my transcripts with raised eyebrows. "Your grades are excellent, Shannon. What brings you to Montana?" I mumbled something about family circumstances while she processed my enrollment. Making friends felt impossible when I couldn't explain my situation without revealing my family's abandonment. I ate lunch alone and spent evenings helping Frank with ranch chores, learning to repair fences and feed livestock. Phone calls home became increasingly brief and infrequent. Mom asked generic questions about school and weather, while Dad focused on ranch work updates. Jake occasionally grabbed the phone to share news about his basketball team or latest girlfriend, but our conversations felt forced and uncomfortable. 3 weeks into my Montana exile, everything changed. I was walking past Frank's office after dinner when I heard him talking to his neighbor Bill Thompson on the porch. Their voices carried through the open window. "Hell, Bill." I didn't mind taking the boy in, Frank was saying. His folks paid me $5,000 to get him off their hands. Said they couldn't afford the deadweight anymore. My knees buckled. I pressed my back against the house's siding, struggling to breathe. The words hit me like physical blows. Deadweight. Paid to take me. Get me off their hands. My parents hadn't sent me away for my own good, or because Uncle Frank offered better opportunities. They had literally paid someone to take me, because they viewed me as a financial burden they couldn't afford to carry. I stumbled to my room and buried my face in my pillow to muffle the sobs. Everything made sense now. The relief in their faces, the hasty arrangements, their eagerness to focus on Jake's future while disposing of mine. I wasn't their son anymore. I was an expense they'd successfully eliminated. That night, I made a decision that would define the next decade of my life. I would never go home again, not even if they invited me. I would prove that their biggest mistake wasn't keeping Jake and sending me away. Their biggest mistake was underestimating what their discarded son could become. The revelation about my parents' payment to Uncle Frank ignited something fierce inside me. If they wanted to treat me like dead weight, I would prove them catastrophically wrong. I threw myself into academics with laser focus, using homework as an escape from the crushing loneliness that threatened to swallow me whole. My junior year at Missoula High revealed abilities I never knew I possessed. Mathematics came naturally, like solving puzzles that revealed elegant patterns hidden beneath chaotic surfaces. Chemistry fascinated me with its precise reactions and predictable outcomes. Physics made sense in ways that human relationships never did. Mrs. Patterson, my calculus teacher, noticed my rapid progression through advanced concepts. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who had taught at the school for 20 years. After class one day, she approached my desk as I finished a particularly complex problem set. "Shannon, have you considered taking the college-level placement exams? Your work suggests you're ready for university mathematics." I shrugged, unsure how to explain that college seemed like an impossible dream for someone whose family had paid to get rid of them. "I don't know if that's realistic for me, Mrs. Patterson." "Nonsense. Talent like yours shouldn't be wasted. Let me speak with the guidance office about arranging some tests." Within 2 weeks, I had completed advanced placement exams in calculus, chemistry, and physics. The scores arrived a month later, showing perfect or near-perfect results across all subjects. Mrs. Henderson called me into her office with a bemused expression. "Shannon, these scores are remarkable. Universities will compete for students with your academic profile." But Uncle Frank had different ideas about my future. "College is for rich kids and dreamers," he announced when I mentioned the test results over dinner. "You need practical skills that'll put food on the table. Ranch work builds character and provides steady income." I spent hours after school tutoring struggling classmates to earn pocket money. My explanations helped kids understand concepts they'd been fighting all semester. Jessica Martinez, a senior struggling with chemistry, broke down crying after I helped her pass a crucial exam. "You saved my graduation, Shannon. You should be a teacher or something." The school librarian, Mrs. Foster, became an unlikely ally. She was a gentle woman approaching retirement who recognized my hunger for knowledge. She suggested books beyond the standard curriculum and encouraged me to explore subjects that sparked my curiosity. "Education is the one thing no one can take away from you," she told me while checking out another stack of engineering texts. "Invest in your mind, and you'll never be poor." But as spring approached, Frank grew increasingly controlling about my time. He assigned additional ranch chores that conflicted with study periods and prohibited after-school activities that might interfere with farm work. When I missed dinner to help a classmate with mathematics, he imposed an 8 o'clock curfew. "This family comes first, boy. Academic nonsense won't pay the bills." I began studying by flashlight after enforced bedtime hiding textbooks under my mattress like contraband. The secrecy felt familiar after months of concealing my emotional devastation from classmates and teachers. One Saturday morning in March, while cleaning out the barn's storage area as punishment for questioning Frank's authority, I discovered something that shattered what remained of my trust in adult figures. Behind stacks of old farm equipment, I found a wooden crate containing dozens of letters addressed to me. My hands shook as I tore open envelope after envelope, revealing correspondence I'd never seen. Letters from universities across the country offering information about scholarship programs and early admission opportunities. Letters from academic organizations inviting me to competitions and summer programs. Most devastating were 3 thick envelopes from Stanford, MIT, and Caltech. Inside each was a formal letter beginning with "Congratulations" and offering full academic scholarships based on standardized test scores I barely remembered taking during my chaotic final weeks in my hometown. The dates showed these letters had arrived throughout my first year in Montana. Frank had been intercepting my mail-stealing opportunities that could have changed my entire trajectory. While I struggled with feelings of abandonment and worthlessness, universities had been trying to recruit me. I confronted Frank that evening in his office, the letters clutched in my trembling hands. "You stole these from me." Frank barely looked up from his account ledgers. "Those fancy schools would have filled your head with unrealistic expectations. You need to learn the value of honest work. These were full scholarships, free education. You had no right to hide them. Your parents signed papers giving me legal authority over your welfare. I made the decision I thought was best. You made the decision that kept me here as free ranch labor." Frank's face hardened. "Watch your tone, boy. You've got a roof over your head and 3 meals a day, more than some kids get." That night, I carefully hid the letters in my room and began planning my escape. The scholarship deadlines had passed, but Mrs. Patterson had mentioned that exceptional students could sometimes arrange late admissions. I had 18 months until graduation to create a new plan. More importantly, I had concrete evidence that my academic abilities were extraordinary, not ordinary. The same parents who had paid to discard me had been wrong about my potential. The same uncle who claimed to act in my best interest had sabotaged my future to serve his own needs. I would prove them all wrong. But first, I needed to understand exactly what I was capable of achieving. The discovery of those hidden scholarship letters ignited a cold, focused rage that burned brighter than any emotion I'd previously experienced. Frank's betrayal cut deeper than my parents' abandonment because he had systematically destroyed opportunities while pretending to mentor me. I spent the next week researching the universities that had tried to recruit me, learning about their programs and requirements. During a private meeting with Mrs. Patterson, I explained the situation carefully, omitting the most painful details about my family's rejection. "Shannon, this is unconscionable," she said, examining the intercepted letters. "However, exceptional students like you always have options. Let me make some phone calls." Within days, she had contacted admissions offices at several prestigious universities. While the full-ride scholarships had been reassigned, most schools maintained waiting lists for students with extraordinary qualifications. My test scores remained valid, and my junior year grades reinforced my academic potential. I began working multiple jobs to fund my escape plan. Mornings before school, I stocked shelves at Morrison's grocery store. Afternoons, I tutored struggling students for $15 per session. Weekends, I worked for neighboring ranchers who paid better than Frank's family labor expectations. Every dollar went into a savings account I'd opened secretly in town. I told Frank the jobs were character-building experiences, which aligned with his philosophy about hard work. He never suspected I was funding my departure from his control. The academic year flew by as I maintained perfect grades while juggling work and college preparation. Mrs. Henderson helped me navigate application processes, while Mrs. Foster provided moral support during moments when the pressure felt overwhelming. Summer arrived with new challenges. Frank assigned more demanding ranch work, expecting me to abandon my part-time jobs. I negotiated compromises by completing farm chores at dawn and dusk, maintaining my employment during peak hours. One sweltering July afternoon, while bagging groceries at Morrison's, I encountered someone who shattered my understanding of my family's true circumstances. Mrs. Sarah Carmichael had been my parents' neighbor for over 15 years. She was shopping with her teenage daughter, selecting items for a college care package. When she recognized me, her face lit up with genuine warmth. "Shannon, how wonderful to see you. How are you adjusting to life in Montana?" I gave vague answers about school and ranch work, but Mrs. Carmichael seemed eager to share news from home. "Your parents have done remarkably well since you left. Your father's company made a complete comeback after landing that state highway contract. They bought a new house last spring and just sent Jake off to that expensive private college back east. Boston something. They used his college fund to get him into the best school possible." The grocery bags slipped from my hands, canned goods rolling across the floor. Jake's college fund. The account my parents had established equally for both their sons. The money they'd claimed was lost when their business failed. "Are you all right, dear?" Mrs. Carmichael asked, noticing my pale complexion. "Just tired from the heat." I managed kneeling to retrieve the scattered items. "Well, give my regards to your uncle. Your parents speak so fondly of Jake's opportunities. Full tuition, paid private dorm study abroad programs. They're so proud of his potential." That evening, I called home for the first time in months. Mom answered with her usual cautious cheerfulness. "Shannon, honey, what a surprise. How are things in Montana?" "Fine. I heard Jake started college." "Oh yes, he's doing wonderfully at Boston College. Beautiful campus, excellent professors. He's considering a business major." "That must be expensive." "Well, education is the best investment we can make in our children's futures." The hypocrisy was staggering. They'd paid Uncle Frank to take me while spending my college fund on Jake's mediocre academic performance. According to Mrs. Carmichael, Jake had barely maintained a C average through high school, yet received every advantage while I excelled in exile. "How are Jake's grades?" I asked carefully. "Oh, you know how college adjustments can be challenging. He's finding his rhythm. The important thing is that he's there experiencing everything the school offers." Translation. Jake was struggling academically, despite receiving every opportunity I'd been denied. After hanging up, I sat in my small room processing this new betrayal. My parents had recovered financially within 2 years of my departure. They'd used my college fund to support Jake's education, while allowing me to believe our family remained in financial crisis. Every conversation had been built on lies, designed to justify their abandonment. But this revelation also provided unexpected motivation. While Jake struggled through college with every advantage, I was earning straight A's, while working 3 jobs and living under Frank's oppressive control. My parents had bet on the wrong son. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Patterson called with incredible news. "Shannon, I've been corresponding with the engineering department at Montana State University. They're offering you a full academic scholarship based on your test scores and grades. It's not Stanford, but it's an excellent program with strong industry connections." I accepted immediately. The scholarship covered tuition, room board, and textbooks. More importantly, it offered escape from Uncle Frank's manipulation and the first step toward proving my worth. I spent my senior year maintaining perfect grades while secretly preparing for college. Frank assumed I would remain on the ranch after graduation, becoming permanent, unpaid labor. Aunt Linda occasionally mentioned community college possibilities, but Frank dismissed education as impractical dreaming. When acceptance letters arrived in spring, I intercepted them before Frank could repeat his mail theft. The Montana State Engineering Program had accepted me with honors, offering additional research opportunities and internship placements. I planned my revelation carefully. During dinner on a quiet April evening, I cleared my throat to address the family. "I've been accepted to Montana State University on a full academic scholarship. I'll be starting their engineering program in the fall." Frank's fork clattered against his plate. "You did what?" "I applied to college and received a full ride, room board and tuition covered." "You're not going to college. You've got responsibilities here." "Actually, Uncle Frank, I'm 18 now. You no longer have legal authority over my decisions." Tyler and Emma watched our confrontation with fascination, while Aunt Linda studied her meatloaf intently. Frank's face reddened with anger, and something that looked suspiciously like panic at losing his unpaid worker. Your parents sent you here to learn practical skills, not chase impossible dreams. My parents sent me here to get rid of me. The difference is, I'm going to succeed despite their low expectations. That night, Frank called my parents to complain about my ungratefulness and unrealistic ambitions. But I was beyond caring about their opinions. I had earned my freedom through academic excellence and sheer determination. 4 months later, I moved into my Montana State dormitory, with everything I owned fitting into 2 suitcases. My roommate, Marcus Williams, was a brilliant computer science major from Seattle, whose family supported his educational goals enthusiastically. For the first time since that devastating October evening 2 years earlier, I felt genuinely optimistic about my future. My family had underestimated my potential, but I was just beginning to discover what I could accomplish when people believed in me. University life transformed me in ways I never anticipated. For the first time since my family's abandonment, I was surrounded by people who valued intelligence and curiosity. My engineering professors recognized my analytical abilities, immediately offering research opportunities typically reserved for graduate students. Marcus became my first real friend in years. He was tall and lanky, with dark skin and an infectious laugh that filled our dormitory room. Where I had learned to hide my emotions behind careful restraint, Marcus wore his feelings openly, celebrating successes and processing disappointments through animated conversations. "Dude, you need to lighten up sometimes," he said after watching me spend another weekend buried in advanced calculus texts. "You're brilliant, but you act like the world's gonna end if you get a B on one assignment." I struggled to explain that academic perfection felt like my only protection against future abandonment. If I couldn't maintain exceptional performance, what value did I offer anyone? "Shannon, man, people don't like you because of your grades. They like you because you're a decent human being who helps everyone understand complex concepts." Marcus was referring to our study groups where struggling classmates sought my explanations for engineering principles. I found satisfaction in breaking down complicated problems into manageable components, watching comprehension dawn on confused faces. During sophomore year, Professor Edwards recommended me for a summer internship at Clearwater Technologies, a mid-sized engineering firm based in Bozeman. The position offered real project experience and substantial pay compared to my previous retail jobs. My supervisor, Janet Liu, was a senior engineer who had graduated from MIT 15 years earlier. She possessed the quick intelligence and professional confidence I hoped to develop. On my first day, she assigned me to assist with designing water treatment systems for rural communities. "Don't be intimidated by the complexity, Shannon. Break everything into smaller problems and solve them systematically." Her advice proved invaluable as I dove into technical specifications and regulatory requirements. Within weeks, I was contributing meaningful solutions to project challenges. Janet began including me in client meetings, where I learned to communicate technical concepts to non-engineers. The breakthrough came during my second month at Clearwater. We were struggling with a filtration system that met technical specifications, but exceeded budget constraints for small communities. Traditional approaches required expensive components that made the system financially impractical. I spent my evenings researching alternative materials and manufacturing processes, exploring possibilities the senior engineers hadn't considered. My solution involved modifying existing industrial components for water treatment applications, reducing costs by 60% while maintaining performance standards. "Shannon, this is exceptional work," Janet said after reviewing my proposal. "You've solved a problem that's been frustrating our team for months." The company implemented my design for 3 municipal projects, saving tens of thousands of dollars in equipment costs. Janet recommended me for a recognition bonus and mentioned my contribution in her report to senior management. When I returned to university for junior year, I felt transformed. The quiet, uncertain boy, who had arrived 2 years earlier, had developed into a confident young man with professional experience and proven abilities. My grades remained perfect, but academics felt less like desperate validation and more like intellectual exploration. Marcus and I decided to room together off campus, renting a small apartment near the engineering building. We spent evenings discussing ambitious plans for our post-graduation careers. Marcus wanted to develop software for educational applications, while I gravitated toward sustainable infrastructure projects. We should start a company together, Marcus suggested one night while we worked on separate assignments. Your engineering brilliance and my programming skills could create something amazing. The idea seemed fantastical, but intriguing. Neither of us came from entrepreneurial backgrounds, yet university had taught us that conventional limitations might be overcome through innovation and determination. During spring semester of junior year, I received an unexpected call that would change my understanding of my family situation forever. Emma, now 15, had tracked down my phone number through the university directory. Her voice sounded nervous and excited as she delivered shocking news. Shannon, I need to tell you something that's been bothering me for years. I've been keeping Grandma Betty updated about your achievements, and she shares everything with your parents. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Grandma Betty asks about you every time we visit. I thought your parents would want to know you were doing well, so I've been telling her about your scholarships and internships. She tells everyone about her brilliant grandson Shannon. Does that include my parents? Every single detail. She's so proud of you, Shannon. She shows your honor roll letters to all her friends and neighbors. Your parents know about your perfect grades, your internship, everything. I sat in stunned silence as Emma continued. I thought they would contact you once they realized how successful you'd become. When they didn't, I started wondering if I'd made a mistake. My parents had spent 3 years aware of my academic achievements while maintaining complete silence. They knew I was thriving despite their abandonment, yet felt no obligation to acknowledge my success or apologize for their devastating betrayal. Emma, are they doing well financially? Oh yes, much better than before. Dad's company is really successful now, and Jake? She paused uncomfortably. What about Jake? He's struggling at college, Shannon. He's changed majors 3 times and barely passes his classes. Mom and Dad keep paying for everything and making excuses, but everyone can see he's not doing well. So while Jake squandered every opportunity with complete family support, I was excelling through pure determination and resilience. My parents' investment in their supposedly talented son was proving to be a catastrophic miscalculation. Thank you for telling me this, Emma. I appreciate your honesty. After hanging up, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Anger at my parents' continued silence, despite knowing of my success. Satisfaction at their awareness of their mistake. Sadness that family pride wasn't enough to motivate reconciliation attempts. But mostly, I felt liberated. Their approval or acknowledgement no longer mattered for my self-worth. I was succeeding on my own terms, building a life they couldn't control or diminish. Senior year flew by as Marcus and I developed our business concept more seriously. We created a small consulting company, offering engineering and software solutions to local businesses. Our first clients were agricultural operations, seeking automated systems for irrigation and crop monitoring. The projects generated modest income while providing entrepreneurial experience. We learned to manage client relationships, meet deadlines, and deliver professional results. By graduation, our little company had completed 12 successful projects and earned recognition from the university's Business Development Center. I graduated summa cum laude, with multiple job offers from major engineering firms. But Marcus and I decided to pursue our consulting business full-time, confident that our unique combination of skills could serve clients more effectively than traditional large firms. Within 6 months of graduation, we had relocated to Denver, where agricultural and energy companies needed the specialized services we provided. Our client base expanded rapidly as word spread about our innovative approaches to complex technical challenges. By age 25, I was earning more than most engineers with a decade of experience. Our company employed 8 staff members and maintained contracts with Fortune 500 companies. I had purchased a comfortable home in a Denver suburb and owned a reliable car without monthly payments. More importantly, I had found professional fulfillment and personal confidence that no family rejection could diminish. The boy my parents had discarded as worthless had become a successful entrepreneur whose expertise was valued by major corporations. Emma called occasionally to update me on family news, carefully avoiding mention of my parents' opinions about my success. I appreciated her loyalty, but no longer needed their validation. I had proven my worth to the people who mattered: myself, my business partner, our clients, and our employees. 3 years had passed since learning about my parents' secret knowledge of my achievements. They had chosen silence over reconciliation, pride over love. Their choice had consequences they probably never anticipated. I was building a life they couldn't claim credit for or control. When they finally decided to reach out, if they ever did, I would be negotiating from a position of strength rather than desperate need for their acceptance. Life had settled into comfortable rhythms by the time I turned 27. Our company, Williams Foster Engineering Solutions, had grown to 15 employees and occupied a modern office space in downtown Denver. Marcus handled software development and client relations while I focused on technical design and business strategy. We had recently completed our most ambitious project, designing water management systems for 3 Colorado municipalities facing drought challenges. The solutions we developed saved each city over $2 million in infrastructure costs, while exceeding environmental protection standards. My personal life had found stability as well. I was dating Sarah Chen, a therapist who specialized in family trauma recovery. She had helped me process the abandonment issues that had driven my relentless pursuit of professional success. Through our conversations, I'd learned to distinguish between healthy ambition and desperate attempts to prove my worth. "You don't need to earn love through achievements, Shannon," she often reminded me. "The people who matter will value you for who you are, not what you accomplish." Sarah understood my family history without judgment, having worked with many clients whose relatives had failed them during crucial life moments. She encouraged me to maintain boundaries that protected my emotional well-being while remaining open to healthy relationships. On a crisp February morning, I discovered an elegant cream envelope mixed among routine business correspondence. The return address made my heart skip. Betty Foster, my grandmother, from the small town where I'd grown up. Inside was a formal invitation printed on expensive cardstock. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the 76th birthday of Betty Foster on Saturday, March 18th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Family gathering to follow at the Foster residence." A handwritten note was tucked behind the invitation. "Dearest Shannon, I would be honored if you could join us for this special celebration. It has been far too long since we've seen each other. Love and hope, Grandma Betty." I stared at the invitation for several minutes, processing the implications. This would be my first contact with extended family since leaving for Montana 11 years earlier. Emma had kept Grandma Betty informed about my success, but I hadn't spoken directly with anyone from that side of the family. More significantly, my parents would undoubtedly attend their mother's milestone birthday celebration. I called Emma that evening to discuss the invitation. She was now 23 and finishing her nursing degree at the University of Colorado. "Shannon, I'm so glad you called. Did you get Grandma's invitation?" "Yes, this afternoon. I wasn't sure what to think." "You have to come. Grandma talks about you constantly. She's so proud of everything you've accomplished." "Will my parents be there?" Emma's voice became cautious. "Yes, they're planning to attend." "Shannon, there's something I need to tell you about why Grandma is having this gathering now." "What do you mean?" "It's not just a birthday celebration. Jake is in serious legal trouble and your parents are desperate for help." My stomach clenched. "What kind of legal trouble?" "He was arrested for embezzling money from the accounting firm where he worked. $200,000 over 18 months. The trial is scheduled for next month." The irony was staggering. While I had built a successful business through legitimate talent and hard work, Jake had resorted to stealing money to maintain his lifestyle. My parents' golden child had become a criminal. "How long have you known about this?" I asked. "The arrest happened 6 weeks ago. Your parents are trying to keep it quiet from extended family, but everyone will find out eventually. They're hoping you might help financially. They want me to pay for Jake's legal defense. I think they want you to pay the restitution so he avoids prison time. Shannon, they know how successful your company has become. Grandma shows everyone your business articles and awards." I spent the next hour processing this information. My parents had ignored my achievements for years, while secretly tracking my success through Grandma Betty's updates. Now, they plan to use a family gathering to manipulate me into solving their problem child's criminal behavior. "Emma, do they know I might attend the birthday celebration?" "Grandma sent you an invitation without telling them first. When they found out, there was a huge argument. Your mother started crying, and your father got really angry. But Grandma insisted it was her birthday and her guest list." I admired my grandmother's courage in defying my parents' wishes, but I also recognized the impossible position this created. They would view my attendance as an opportunity to exploit my financial success, while maintaining their narrative that sending me away had been justified. The manipulation was breathtaking in its calculation. They had timed the invitation to coincide with Jake's legal crisis, assuming I would feel obligated to help family during emergencies. They probably expected me to arrive grateful for reconciliation, eager to prove my worthiness by solving their expensive problem. I consulted Sarah about whether attending would be psychologically healthy, given my family's history of manipulation and emotional abuse. "Shannon, you've spent years building strength and independence. You're not that vulnerable 16-year-old anymore. If you want to see your grandmother and extended family, you can maintain appropriate boundaries with your parents. What if they pressure me about Jake's situation? You can choose how much or how little you engage with their requests. Remember, you don't owe them anything regardless of biological relationships." Over the following week, I researched Jake's legal situation through public records and news reports. The charges were serious systematic theft from client accounts over an extended period. If convicted, he faced up to 10 years in federal prison unless restitution was paid and a plea agreement reached. The stolen amount, $200,000, represented a significant but manageable expense for my company. I could easily cover Jake's restitution without affecting our business operations or personal finances. But the decision wasn't about money. It was about justice, accountability, and the message my intervention would send about family dynamics and consequences. I made a choice that would surprise everyone involved. 3 days before the birthday celebration, I hired a private investigator to gather detailed information about Jake's case, my parents' current financial situation, and the family dynamics surrounding this crisis. The report arrived within 48 hours, painting a clear picture of the desperation driving their manipulation attempt. My parents' construction business was moderately successful, but heavily leveraged. They had invested most of their assets in real estate and equipment, leaving limited liquid funds for emergency expenses. Jake's legal defense had already cost them $50,000 money borrowed against their house. More importantly, Jake had spent the stolen money on gambling debts and luxury purchases rather than necessary expenses. He had developed serious addiction problems during college that my parents had enabled rather than addressed. Armed with this knowledge, I made my final decision about attending Grandma Betty's birthday celebration. I would go, but not as the desperate, abandoned child my parents expected. I would arrive as a successful businessman who understood exactly what they wanted and why they wanted it. Marcus agreed to accompany me for moral support, curious to meet the family whose rejection had shaped my character so profoundly. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" he asked as we planned the trip. "I've been ready for 11 years. They just don't know it yet." I chose my arrival carefully, driving my Tesla Model S into Grandma Betty's neighborhood precisely 15 minutes after the party's scheduled start time. The luxury car would send an unmistakable message about my current circumstances without appearing ostentatious or desperate for attention. Marcus had flown in from Seattle, where he was consulting for Microsoft to provide moral support during this emotional reunion. He wore a tailored navy suit that complemented his confident demeanor, while I selected charcoal gray with a subtle pinstripe that suggested professional success without arrogance. "Remember, we're here for your grandmother," Marcus reminded me as we approached the familiar two-story house where I'd spent childhood holidays and summer afternoons. "Everything else is secondary." The neighborhood looked smaller than my memories suggested, with modest homes, maintaining well-kept lawns and gardens. Several cars lined the street, indicating a substantial gathering of extended family and friends. My hands remained steady as I rang the doorbell, surprising myself with the calm confidence I felt. The frightened, abandoned teenager had been replaced by a man who understood his worth, regardless of family acceptance. Grandma Betty opened the door herself, her face lighting up with pure joy at seeing me. She was smaller than I remembered, her silver hair perfectly styled, and her blue eyes bright with intelligence and warmth. "Shannon, my darling boy, you came." She embraced me with surprising strength, holding on longer than social convention required. When she pulled back, her eyes were filled with tears. "Look at you, so handsome and successful. I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished." "Happy birthday, Grandma. You look wonderful." I introduced Marcus as my business partner and best friend, and she welcomed him with the same genuine warmth she'd shown me. Leading us into the crowded living room, she announced my arrival to the assembled relatives. "Everyone, my grandson Shannon is here, and this is his colleague Marcus." The conversations paused as family members I hadn't seen in over a decade processed my unexpected appearance. Cousins, aunts, and uncles who remembered me as a quiet, awkward teenager now saw a confident man in an expensive suit, arriving with obvious signs of prosperity. My parents stood frozen near the kitchen doorway, their faces displaying shock-forced smiles and poorly concealed desperation. Dad had aged significantly, his hair completely gray and his face lined with stress. Mom appeared equally worn, though she'd clearly made efforts to look festive for the celebration. Jake stood beside them, and the transformation was startling. The confident athlete I remembered had become a pale, thin man, with dark circles under his eyes and an air of defeated resignation. His suit looked cheap compared to mine, hanging loosely on his diminished frame. "Shannon," Mom said, carefully approaching with hesitant steps. "What a wonderful surprise." "Hello, Mom, Dad, Jake." Dad stepped forward with forced heartiness, extending his hand for a handshake that felt awkward and formal. "Son, you look like you're doing well for yourself." "I am, thank you." Jake avoided eye contact, entirely mumbling a greeting while studying his shoes. The dynamic between us had completely reversed. Where he had once been the family favorite receiving every advantage, he now appeared defeated and ashamed, while I projected success and confidence. The next hour passed in polite conversations with relatives who were genuinely interested in my achievements. Aunt Margaret, Dad's sister, asked detailed questions about my engineering company and expressed amazement at our client list. Fortune 500 companies. "Shannon, that's incredible. Who would have thought that quiet little boy would become such a successful entrepreneur?" Uncle Robert wanted to know about living in Denver and whether my company might expand to other cities. Cousin Jennifer asked about the technical aspects of our water management projects, having heard about our municipal contracts through local news coverage. Throughout these conversations, I noticed my parents hovering nearby, clearly waiting for an opportunity to speak privately. Their body language screamed anxiety and barely contained desperation. The moment came when Grandma Betty gathered everyone for the traditional birthday toast. As relatives raised glasses of champagne and shared fond memories, I found myself genuinely moved by the warmth and love surrounding this remarkable woman. "To Grandma Betty," I said when my turn came, "thank you for always believing in the potential of your grandchildren, even when others couldn't see it." The room erupted in agreement, but I noticed my parents' uncomfortable expressions at my subtle reference to their lack of faith in my abilities. After the formal celebration, Dad approached me with nervous determination. Shannon, could we speak privately? Your mother and I would love to catch up properly. I followed them to the back porch, where Jake joined us reluctantly. Marcus remained inside, understanding that this conversation required family privacy. Son, we owe you an apology. Dad began, his voice heavy with regret. The decision we made when you were 16, we were desperate and scared, and we made a terrible mistake. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. We thought we were protecting the family's future, but we were wrong about everything. You've become everything we hoped Jake would become. I studied their faces calmly, feeling neither anger nor satisfaction. These were broken people who had gambled on the wrong child and lost everything they'd valued. I appreciate the apology, but that's not why you asked me out here. Dad's face flushed. Shannon, Jake is in serious legal trouble. We're hoping, as family, you might consider helping with the financial aspects. You want me to pay his restitution? $200,000, Mom said quietly. We know you're successful now, and we hoped. I let them wait in uncomfortable silence before delivering the revelation that would shock them more than my unexpected prosperity. I already took care of it. Their faces went blank with confusion. What? Jake spoke for the first time, his voice barely audible. I hired attorneys to handle your case 3 weeks ago. The restitution has been paid, and a plea agreement has been finalized. You'll receive probation and community service instead of prison time. Mom gasped. You? But how did you even know? I've known about Jake's situation for months. I also know about your financial struggles, your mortgage problems, and your attempts to use this birthday celebration to manipulate me into helping. Dad's face cycled through confusion, embarrassment, and something approaching fear. Shannon, we never meant to manipulate. Yes, you did, but that's not why I helped Jake. I turned to my brother, who was staring at me with shock and confusion. I didn't save you for family loyalty, Jake. I did it for Grandma Betty. She doesn't deserve the stress and heartbreak of watching her grandson go to prison. My intervention protects her, not you. Jake's face crumpled. Shannon, I'm sorry. For everything. For how they treated you, for wasting every opportunity they gave me, for becoming someone you had to rescue. His genuine remorse surprised me. I hope you get the help you need, Jake. But that's your choice to make. I addressed my parents directly. I've also established a trust fund for Grandma Betty's medical care and living expenses. She'll never have to worry about money or depend on anyone else for her well-being. Mom broke down, completely sobbing into her hands. Shannon, we're so sorry. We were terrible parents to you. You were. But I'm not that abandoned 16-year-old anymore. I've built a good life despite your choices, not because of them. Dad struggled to speak through his emotions. Is there any chance? Could we try to rebuild some kind of relationship? I considered his question carefully, thinking about the years of silence. Despite their knowledge of my success, the calculated timing of this reunion, and the family history that couldn't be erased. Maybe someday. But reconciliation requires trust, and trust requires time and consistent actions. Right now, I'm focused on maintaining a relationship with Grandma Betty and supporting my own family. Your own family? Mom asked. Marcus and I have built something together. Our employees depend on us. My girlfriend Sarah provides the emotional support and understanding I need. That's my family now. We stood in silence for several minutes, processing the weight of revelations and consequences. My parents had been forced to confront the magnitude of their mistake, while simultaneously witnessing my unexpected generosity toward the brother they'd favored. Thank you, Dad finally said, for helping Jake even after everything we did to you. Don't thank me. Thank Grandma Betty. She's the only reason I intervened. As we prepared to leave, Grandma Betty hugged me tightly at the front door. Shannon, I've always known you were special. I'm sorry your parents couldn't see what I saw. They see it now, Grandma. Maybe that's enough. Will you visit me again soon, without waiting for birthday invitations? I promise. Driving away from the house where I'd experienced both childhood joy and devastating abandonment, I felt a profound sense of closure. My family's recognition of their mistake provided vindication, but their approval no longer defined my self-worth. The abandoned child had returned as a successful man who chose grace over revenge, justice over cruelty. My parents would live with the consequences of their choices, but I wouldn't allow their failures to poison my future. The weeks following Grandma Betty's birthday celebration brought unexpected peace to my life. The confrontation I'd anticipated for years had ended not with dramatic fireworks, but with quiet justice and measured forgiveness. My parents faced the reality of their catastrophic mistake while witnessing the success of the son they'd discarded. Sarah and I spent many evenings discussing the emotional complexity of family reconciliation and appropriate boundaries. Her professional insight helped me process feelings that ranged from satisfaction to sadness to cautious hope. "How do you feel about their apology?" she asked during one of our late-night conversations in my Denver home. "Relieved, I think. For years, I wondered if they would ever acknowledge what they did. But I also realized their apology doesn't erase the damage or automatically create trust. What would you need from them to consider rebuilding a relationship?" I thought carefully before answering. Consistency, time, genuine effort to understand how their abandonment affected me. And honestly, I'm not sure I need their relationship anymore. That's a healthy perspective. You've created a life that fulfills you without their validation. Jake's legal situation resolved exactly as I'd arranged. He received 3 years of probation, 1,800 hours of community service, and mandatory participation in gambling addiction treatment. The plea agreement kept him out of prison while requiring accountability for his actions. More importantly, he entered a residential treatment program that addressed the underlying issues driving his criminal behavior. Emma reported that he seemed genuinely committed to recovery, attending meetings, and working with counselors who specialized in addiction psychology. 2 months after the birthday celebration, Jake called me directly for the first time since childhood. His voice carried humility I'd never heard before. "Shannon, I know this is awkward, but I wanted to thank you for what you did. Not just the money, but giving me a chance to fix my life, instead of destroying it completely." "How are you doing with treatment?" "It's hard, really hard. I'm learning about the choices I made and why I made them. The counselors say I was trying to escape feelings of inadequacy by taking risks and spending money I didn't have." The irony wasn't lost on me. While I'd channeled feelings of inadequacy into academic and professional achievement, Jake had sought validation through destructive behavior. "Are you working?" "Yeah. I got a job at a nonprofit that helps people with financial literacy. It doesn't pay much, but it feels meaningful. Like maybe I can help other people avoid the mistakes I made." 6 months later, I received an unexpected letter from my parents. The handwriting was Mom's, but she indicated that Dad had collaborated on every word. "Dear Shannon, we've spent months trying to find words adequate for the apology we owe you. We failed you as parents in the most fundamental way possible. When you needed our protection and support, we abandoned you to save ourselves financial stress. We convinced ourselves we were making a practical decision, but we were really choosing selfishness over love. Watching you succeed despite our failures has been both inspiring and heartbreaking. You became the man we hoped you would become without our guidance or encouragement. You developed character intelligence and compassion that we didn't nurture or deserve credit for. We don't expect forgiveness, and we don't assume you want a relationship with us. We simply need you to know that losing you was the greatest mistake of our lives. If you're ever willing to let us try earning your trust, we would be grateful for the opportunity. If not, we understand and respect your decision. We're proud of you, Shannon. We should have said that years ago. Love, Mom and Dad." I read the letter several times before sharing it with Sarah and Marcus. Their responses helped me understand my own conflicted emotions. "It sounds genuine," Marcus observed. But actions matter more than words. What kind of actions would demonstrate genuine change? Sarah asked. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't need to figure that out right now. Instead of responding to my parents immediately, I focused on expanding the positive aspects of my life. Williams Foster Engineering Solutions had grown to 22 employees and was considering opening offices in Phoenix and Portland. Our reputation for innovative solutions had attracted clients from across the Western United States. More personally, Sarah and I had begun discussing marriage and future plans. She brought stability, wisdom, and emotional health to my life that I'd never experienced. Her own family welcomed me warmly, providing examples of functional relationships that contrasted sharply with my childhood experiences. On a crisp October evening, exactly 11 years after my parents' devastating announcement, I made a decision that would define the next chapter of my life. I called Grandma Betty to arrange a weekly visit schedule that didn't require interaction with my parents. She was thrilled by the prospect of regular contact and promised to respect whatever boundaries I needed. I also established a scholarship fund at Montana State University for students who had been abandoned or aged out of family support systems. The Shannon Foster Foundation would provide full academic scholarships, mentoring, and emotional support for young people whose families had failed them. Too many kids fall through the cracks when their families give up on them. I explained to the University Development Office. Everyone deserves a chance to prove their worth regardless of their family circumstances. The foundation's first recipient was a 18-year-old girl whose parents had kicked her out for being lesbian. She possessed exceptional mathematical abilities, but no financial resources for college education. Reading her application essay brought tears to my eyes as she described feeling worthless and abandoned despite her academic achievements. "Thank you for seeing potential in me when my own family couldn't," she wrote after receiving the scholarship notification. 3 years later, the foundation supported 12 students annually, and our success stories had attracted additional donors who expanded our impact. Former recipients returned as mentors for newer scholarship winners, creating a supportive community that replaced the family relationships they'd lost. Jake surprised everyone by becoming involved with the foundation's work. His experience with addiction recovery and financial mistakes made him an effective counselor for students facing similar challenges. He attended the foundation's annual dinner and approached me carefully. "Shannon, I know I have no right to ask, but would you consider letting me apply for a position with your company? I've been clean for 18 months, and I want to rebuild my life with meaningful work." I studied my brother's face, seeing genuine remorse and determination where arrogance had once resided. "Send me your resume and references. I can't promise anything except fair consideration." 4 months later, Jake joined our company as a junior project coordinator, starting at an entry-level salary with opportunities for advancement based on performance. He worked diligently, accepting criticism gracefully, and contributing useful insights to project discussions. Our working relationship remained professional, but cordial, focused on business objectives rather than family history. His presence provided unexpected healing, as I watched him rebuild his character through honest effort and accountability. My parents never pushed for reconciliation beyond their letter, respecting my need for space and time. Occasionally, they sent cards for my birthday or holidays, brief messages that expressed pride in my achievements without requesting responses. Emma completed nursing school and moved to Denver for a position at Presbyterian St. Joseph Hospital. She became a regular part of my social circle, joining Sarah and me for dinners and weekend activities. Her presence provided a healthy connection to family that didn't require emotional complications or forgiveness negotiations. On my 30th birthday, I reflected on the journey from abandoned teenager to successful businessman, loving partner, and mentor, to young people facing similar challenges. The pain of my parents' rejection had shaped my character in ways that ultimately strengthened rather than destroyed me. Sarah and I celebrated quietly at home, cooking dinner together and discussing plans for our upcoming wedding. We had chosen a small ceremony focused on the people who truly mattered: Marcus as best man, Emma as a bridesmaid, Grandma Betty, in the place of honor, and Sarah's family providing the warmth and acceptance I'd found in chosen relationships. "Do you ever regret how things happened with your family?" Sarah asked, as we shared dessert on our back patio. "That's a complex question. I regret the pain and confusion I experienced as a teenager. I regret that my parents chose fear over faith in their children's potential. But I don't regret the strength I developed or the life I've built." What would you tell that 16-year-old boy who was sent away? I considered her question carefully, thinking about the frightened, heartbroken child who had believed his family's rejection reflected his true worth. I would tell him that other people's limitations don't define your potential. That family is something you build through love and trust, not something you're stuck with through biology. That the pain he's experiencing will transform into purpose if he refuses to let it make him bitter. Most importantly, I would tell him that being discarded doesn't mean being worthless. Sometimes the people who abandon us are simply revealing their own fears and inadequacies. Our job is to prove them wrong by becoming everything they couldn't imagine. As the sun set over the mountains surrounding Denver, I felt profound gratitude for the unexpected path my life had taken. My parents' devastating decision had forced me to discover strengths I might never have developed within their limited expectations. The foundation continued growing, supporting more students each year who transformed abandonment into achievement. Jake's recovery remained strong as he built a meaningful career and healthy relationships. Grandma Betty thrived in her independent living situation, surrounded by the love and respect she'd always deserved. My business partnership with Marcus had evolved into a brotherhood that provided stability and shared purpose. Sarah brought joy, wisdom, and emotional security that healed wounds I'd carried for years. The life I'd constructed from broken pieces had become more beautiful than anything I could have inherited from my original family. Standing in my backyard, holding the woman I loved while contemplating the future we were building together, I realized that my parents had actually given me the greatest gift possible. By forcing me to prove my worth, they had helped me discover capabilities I might never have explored. By abandoning me, they had taught me to value the people who chose to stay. Family isn't determined by biology or obligation. Family is created through consistent love, mutual support, and shared commitment to each other's well-being. The people who gather around your table celebrate your successes and comfort you during failures. Those are your real family members. I had found mine, and they were everything my original family had failed to be. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt abandoned or underestimated by people who should have believed in you? How did you find the strength to prove them wrong? Share your story in the comments below, because your experience might inspire someone else who's facing similar challenges. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family betrayal and building successful lives from broken beginnings. Don't forget to share this with anyone who needs to hear that their worth isn't determined by other people's limitations. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it reminds you that your potential is limitless, regardless of who believes in it. Until next time, keep proving them wrong and building the life you deserve.